What is up, bitch boy Millsy? Back at the hometown commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew my version 1.0 deck list of the commander in front of us on my quest to brew the magic world. As always, the deck list is going to be down in the description for you, and I would love if you could like, comment, and subscribe on the video for me. But today we're talking about a deck idea in a lot of ways that kind of is a spiritual successor to a cast list that I had a long time ago. And I wanted to start to eventually pull it into somewhere else. And Anhelo is a commander that's kind of always been sitting in the back of my mind. And I've yet to brew it for the channel, so I thought, hey, why not take a shot at it, see what I can make it into. And I think the list is a ton of fun. Anhelo is a 3-mana 1/3 vampire assassin with Death Touch. It says the first instant or sorcery we cast each turn has Casualty 2. It says we cast a spell, we can sacrifice creature power 2 or greater. When we do, we copy the spell and choose new targets for the copy. Casualty is a really interesting ability because copying spells is a concept in Magic that can be really good and really bad in a lot of situations, but it's really good if you can choose what you want to copy when and take real advantage of it. The cool part is we have a lot of things that make tokens that satisfy the Casualty 2, which is what we're going to try to do, make as many of them as we can. This is going to give us the ability to go wide if that's the backup win con we need to go for. We can't find enough of our spell slingy damage outlets. We can probably just go wide if we really need to. But that's the goal. We're also playing a lot of spells that are just going to get worse for our opponents the more we copy them. And that's going to be helpful as well. So we're going to talk about the ways we're going to make the tokens, spells, some fun spells to copy, and then how we're hopefully just going to get really big spell slinger value from the things we cast. But let's get into the tokens. So the cool part is that the reason I'm glad I waited was because there's so many great things that have come out in the last really year. Capenna's almost 2 years old, which is crazy to me. But Geralf and Gisa from the new set both make a ton of sense. Both of them make 2/2s by doing things. Geralf making them for each spell and then your first each turn. And then Gisa, whenever you commit a crime, is going to make a 2/2. Now the thing to remember is that we cannot make the 2/2 in response to casting the spell and then Casualty. We have to have the 2/2 around. So it's important to, when we look at these abilities that are making tokens, to me, I've always, when I was brewing the deck, I was like, we're kind of seeding future turns of Casualties, if that makes sense. It does also say the first instant or sorcery. So if we manage to commit a crime or cast a spell that is an instant or sorcery, we then could actually load it up and get it ready to go. So Gisa does it off committing crimes, only happens once each turn. Jadar just makes a 2/2 at the end of our end step if we control no creatures with Decayed, meaning that every turn we can be basically getting a 2/2 out there and having it ready to go. Judith can give some of our spells Death Touch and Lifelink, which are going to be brutal when we talk about what spells we do have in the deck, but can make that 2/2 red imp. Lagomos makes a 2/1 elemental every turn, so if we want to use Lagomos to get us that 2/1, we're going to need to use the Casualty after combat. Lord of the Nazgul makes a 3/3 Wraith every time we cast a spell, and we get to 9 or more Wraiths. Those Wraiths become 9/9s, so it could be kind of an alternate win con if we can get that far into it. Puppet Stitcher makes a 2/2 zombie every time, and then we can flip Puppet Stitcher over just to make all of our tokens a little bit better. Saruman the White Hand amasses every time we cast a non-creature spell, which is pretty darn cool. That just allows us to potentially get a really big creature if we want to make that a risk for our opponents. Talrand makes a 2/2 Drake every time we cast an instant sorcery. So you can start to see a theme with those, but we also have some other things like Cryptic Pursuit, which was actually originally in Anhelo's Precon, is a pretty cool card. So whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, we manifest the top card of our library. And then when a face-down creature we control, it dies. Exile it if it's an instant or sorcery. If we do, we get to play it until the end of our next turn. We would just get to play it. And this is really cool because then we're not burning spells, right? If they get manifested, we still can use them. Shark Typhoon, of course, just making sharks that are size of the mana value of the spell we cast. This is pretty great when we start talking about some of the X spells we want to use to copy. It means we're going to be able to get pretty big sharks, but at the end of the day, the sharks can be great attackers or great blockers, right? Because they do scale with how big of these spells we're casting. Well, what do we want to copy? I think it's pretty obvious to look at X spells like Crack with Power and Exsanguinate and know that these are the spells that all we need to do is, if we dump 8 mana into an Exsanguinate into X, then copy it, that's a lot of life loss. Crack with Power gets pretty fun
the more mana we put into it. Now, these are the spells that we really want to get and copy. Those spells that could be great for us, especially once we get our spell slinging thing set up. Ensnared by the Mara says that each opponent takes a choice. Either exile from the top of the library until they hit a non-land card, we can cast that card without paying its mana cost, or they exile the top 4 and it deals damage equal to the mana value of those cards to that player. And this is an interesting spell because it forces our opponents to choose what would you rather do. Some decks are going to be able to take those top 4 and probably not get away with too much damage, but if people are picking the top one and we're casting those things and getting all of our other spellslinger value from them, it can be very worth copying for even just forward mana. Fevered Suspicion exiles each opponent exiles a card from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card and casting them without paying their mana costs. It can be copied them with Casualty, and it rebounds back on our next turn. River's Rebuke picks a player and returns all non-land permanents they control their owner's hand. With Casualty, this means that it can hit 2 of our opponents, basically, which is great and makes it way more profitable than it would have been for 6 mana to begin with. Torment of Hailfire, another one of these big X spells that could potentially just end the game outright, depending on how much we can put it into the X with that Casualty. Audacious Swap, also from that precon. The owner of target non-enchantment permanent shuffles into their library, then exiles the top card of their library. If it's a land card, put it on the battlefield. Otherwise, they can cast without paying its mana cost. This is best used on our own permanents, if possible. And it does have Casualty too as well, meaning we could potentially get 3 copies of it, depending on what we see. Now, my understanding of the ruling on this is if I shuffle a token into my own deck, I can still do this. If that's not the case, then I apologize, but that's my understanding of how that rule works. Maestro's Charm. Most of the time, we're going to use that middle one to have each opponent lose 3 and us gain 3, and that could be a little bit swing of life. This is a card that's going to work great with some of our other effects later. Of course, Nexus of Fate. This is a deck where you could really want extra turns effects, especially at the right times. The list is only playing 2 extra turn spells because I know some people have opinions about extra turn spells and I didn't want to go too deep, but I still think they're very worth it, especially for something like Nexus Fate, which shuffles itself back into your deck, meaning you can use it again later. But okay, so we have a lot of spells in the deck to copy. I mean, that was just 9 of them, right? There's way more in the deck we want to copy, draw spells, things like that. Well, let's talk about our spell slinging side of it. This deck gets to play one of my favorite planeswalkers for spell slinging decks, and that's Professor Onyx. Because for a Grixis deck, it pays off absolutely everything you want to do. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, each opponent loses 2 and you gain 2. So this perk's great with Anhelo because now we're copying and getting another trigger of that. And the ability is just going to allow us to try to seed our hand and do some interesting things. Chandra Hope's Beacon is a cool spell that whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, copy it, you may choose new targets of the copy. It only triggers once per turn, giving us effectively one of these double vision style effects, meaning we get another copy of that thing that we cast it. And when we have the versions of these spell slinging effects that care about copying, the more copying we do, obviously, the more triggers. Chandra's great because you can get 2 mana in any combinations of colors. You can exile some cards and try to get some instant or sorceries, or just deal damage to each up to 2 targets. Again, Chandra's there mainly for the copy. Gutter Snipe, right? Classic Spellslinger card. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, 2 damage to each opponent. Stormkiln Artist is one of the ones that can take real advantage of us copying, making us more treasures. Veyron can really double up some of our abilities. Now, I'm under the impression that Casualty is a triggered ability from the research that I did before this video, which means Veyron should technically be able to give a spell Casualty to twice with Anhelo's effect. I could be wrong on that, and that's where I couldn't get an honest answer. So I'm going to run under the assumption that is the case. If it's not the case, I don't think it changes how we're going to run the deck at all. I still think we're going to get great value from the deck, and I still think the deck works the way I want it to. But maybe keep that in the back of your brain. The good part is Veyron's still going to just double everything else. So I think it's still going to be good, even if that Casualty isn't a triggered ability. Okay, well, worst case scenario, we're still going to benefit from the rest of them. And then Mizzix Mastery is going to pair with Arcane Bombardment as 2 of our spell-slingy finisher type cards. These are going to effectively start letting us play multiple spells for free in a turn. Mizzix Mastery plays our entire graveyard, any number of them as we want. Arcane Bombardment starts stashing spells underneath it, playing that. Arcane Bombardment is probably one of my favorite spell-slinging finishers, and it's kind of why I built my Kess deck originally and kind of why I would build this deck. Every turn you're throwing spells underneath it, getting more and more for free. and just progressively getting value. Professor Onyx plus an Arcane Bombardment when it's going off is going to very quickly end a game for you. Fiery Inscription from Lord of the Rings set, just another one of these gutter snipe effects, which is pretty cool. And then Thousand Year Storm works really well. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery, copy it for each other instant sorcery you've cast before it this turn. Thousand Year Storm plus Arcane Bombardment or Mystic Smasher is a brutal thing to watch happen because you just end up casting way too many spells. But again, Thousand Year Storm even works well with some of these copy spell slinging effects just because you really get to take advantage of it. And I think that's where the top end of this deck can really, really shine. The other cool part about that Thousand Year Storm is when we start to cast things like Exsanguinate or Torment of Hailfire, we've already cast a couple small spells before it. You're copying the value of X when you copy a spell, meaning you could probably just, brutalize the table if you get there. Yes, I'm talking about 2 or 3 cards in the 99, but again, a lot of decks are built this way. You're built to work towards 1 or 2 fun, end states, and Thousand Year Storm is one of them. But hey, no deck is perfect. I say that on and off on the show all the time because I mean it. This is my version 1.0 version of the deck, and there's probably some card draw and some consistency I haven't seen. But as far as the cards that didn't make the cut that I really wanted to make the cut, I was just trying to decide. If you like this X spell idea, if you see it really working out, and that's the spell, this kind of side of the game you want to go, I think Mind Grind is well worth the shot. It's an X spell that the more X you put into X, the more that opponent's going to end up exiling off the top of their library. And I think a Mind Grind for, if you think about it, if an average deck runs 34 to 36 lands, if you Mind Grind for 12 or 13 and copy it once or twice, you're just going to brutalize somebody's deck. Yes, that is a Magical Christmas Land scenario, but I think at the end of the day, once a game gets far enough down the line, this is where it's going to go. Jai's Immolating Inferno can basically be used to deal damage to each of your opponents. Copying it's always great. And then I really like Metallurgic Summonings because it's very similar to Shark Typhoon. The only difference is you can exile it to get all instant sorceries from your graveyard back to your hand as long as you have 6 or more artifacts. Remember, we have a bunch of mana rocks. We're making treasures in the deck. Metallurgic Summonings is so easy just to sack it to get all of our spells back to play again. The only reason it's not in there is because I realized that the more spell slinging pieces I put in the deck, the less actual instants and sorceries we had in the deck. And so I was just trying to find that balance. I think it all probably should just come back in. But hey, that's the fun of putting a version 1.0 list together, is you're trying to figure out where your instances lie. But here, our first one, we have a Is It Signet, a 3-lander, Arcane Bombardment, Saruman, and Fire Inscription. Great hand. Some of the spell slinging payoffs are there. We just really just need the spells. And we're good to go. Well, Gareth, there's a way to make some tokens. We seem like we really have a good start here. Frostboreal Snarl can come in untapped. The only bad part is I think that Sunken Hollow is going to kind of come in tapped no matter what. But, we have the basic instance, or we have the basic island. So let's do that. This means on turn 2, we can put that Frostboreal Snarl down and get that Is It Signet down, just to get our mana going up. Forger's Foundry is a mini version of Arcane Bombardment, and can be a fun way to do that as well. But turn 3, we have enough to put out Anhelo, right? But we don't have what I'd want from it yet. The problem is if I play Anhelo, Geralf, or Saruman here, I'm still waiting on something to cast to really take advantage of them. I think I would probably get Saruman going here, because if we choose to play the Foundry next turn, if we choose to play something else, we can at least start amassing, which I think is important. That could at least get us a threat on board. Turn 5 here, we get a draw spell, an Unexpected Windfall. And I think this is what I'm going to do. This is going to make me that army token. And this will get set to 4, because that's the mana value. I'm going to dump the Foundry. I like Arcane Bombardment a lot better. Draw 2 cards and make 2 treasures. My intention here is to get up towards Arcane Bombardment so we can start setting off a big train of spells to cast. We see Maestro's Theater, which is a great card that can go get us another basic. We're at the mana for Arcane Bombardment. We have Poppet Stitcher to make some 2/2s. I like it. We're getting our pieces. We just kind of need to make sure we converge them all together. Well, this turn I would crack the Maestro's Theater. We'd go ahead and gain the life. And I think we're pretty even on colors. I guess I'll just go grab like a mountain. I guess it'll come in it'll come in tapped because of that, but that's okay. Sitting on 7 mana, there's an argument for like Anhelo and then Cryptic Pursuit to get that set up. There's an argument for just slamming Arcane Bombardment and setting it up for next turn. The problem is we still just need an instant or sorcery. There's an argument for like Geralt and then Anhelo to get another zombie to get set up. I think that could be a fun line. Geralt into Anhelo, sacking 1 treasure. That would make us a 2/2 zombie. Or is it a zombie rogue? I'm sorry, it's the zombie rogue. Sorry. That gives us another thing for our casualty next turn. Neither of these were non-tokens or non-creature spells, so Saruman doesn't get up. But hey, maybe we take an attack with that 4/4. But I think now we have a pretty much perfect setup for starting to just get something good. We see Dread Summon, so each player mills X card for each creature card put in the graveyard. This way we get X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. This works really well for us because we have Arcane Bombardment, which can get anything we mill back. So if this is the plan we choose to do, we can go 1/2. We can go 5 into a Dread Summons, sack this zombie to cast it. Everybody would mill 10, and we probably just make a ton of zombies. Since we went 5 into Dread Summons, this would come up to an 11/11. And, we could play out what this turns into, but now it effectively becomes our opponent doesn't have a board wipe. Now we just have a zombie army. Next turn, we slam Arcane Bombardment and then just start playing anything that we milled, right? So if we mill 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. We didn't get all that much from us, which is fine because that wasn't the point. But the point now is that we have all of these in sorceries: Bedevil, Dark Ritual, Frantic Search, Ensnared by the Mara, Audacious Swap, Blood for the Blood God, which is great to hit the graveyard because now we don't have to pay for it. Now we can play this Arcane Bombardment and just start trying to get these seated underneath it. Of course, then Dread Summons would go there as well. And now we're just in a great spot because all we need is just to get the mana going and then, get Arcane Bombardment set up and working. But let's go into Playtest 2. Keeping a 5-nighter with a Talisman and a Jadar feels great. Feels great to get Jadar down and get it set up. We'll go Exotic Orchard turn 1. Turn 2, I guess the Frostboil Snarl. And then we'll get the Arcane Bombardment, the Arcane Signet down. Turn 3, we will get Cascade Bluffs. We could get Anhelo down, or we could get Jadar and a Talisman down. Just get us more mana for next turn, and then Jadar makes that zombie with Decayed. So now we have a 2/2 for Anhelo's ability. We don't have anything yet, but I don't mind just like jamming Chandra here. This could get us more mana next turn, right? Get us more things out. Swing into somebody with the zombie. It gets destroyed after combat, and then we get another one. But now the important part is we have Chandra at 7. There's, I guess, no reason not to tick her up last turn, even though we're not going to use the mana. Here we play the Command Tower, so we have 7 mana plus 9 up to 9. So I would probably go Shark Typhoon and Hello. We would of course add 2 more loyalty counters here. So now we're getting up pretty darn close to her. -X being again set. Attack someone in here, get it back. Now literally all we need is a instant sorcery. Now we have the option to +1 Chandra next turn to do that. I just kind of wanted to wait, see if we draw into one naturally, and we don't, which is kind of brutal. So we'll +1 Chandra here to exile the top 5, and it says, what is it saying? To the end of turn, you may cast an instant or sorcery from among the exiled cards. So the choice is Maestro's Charm or Dark Ritual. I don't really see anything being beneficial for the Dark Ritual, but I can slam this Twinning Staff down here now. That would make me a 3/3 shark, but that would say if we would copy a spell, we copy an additional time. I'd probably pick Maestro's Charm here. The reason is because now I can get 1, 2, and then 3 off the Twinning Staff, so everybody's going to lose 9. I'm going to gain 9, and I make another 3/3 shark. Oh, sorry, I apologize. It would be 4 copies because of it'd be 4 copies because of Chandra. So 1, the Casualty for 2, Twinning Staff for 3, Chandra for 4. So everybody's losing 12. I'm gaining 12 off of just that Maester's Charm alone. You know, take an attack with the take an attack with, or sorry, that's right, the zombie left. That's okay. Now we're starting to gain the sharks. And again, now all we need to do is just make sure we get spells into our hand. The brutal part is we could, in true Moxfield playtest fashion, just keep drawing lands. But again, the point there is you're creating a board state where now any spell we get is just going to continually be gas as we push forward. Let me know, what do you think of Anhelo down in the comment section below? This is a deck that I kind of like to give a shot at some point. Kess was a deck that I truly loved, but was a little bit too high up on the power level scale, and I think Anhelo can bring it down, make it a little bit more fun, make it a little more splashy, but still use all the cards that I liked from it. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys next time.